Alright, so I wanted to do like a quick video just because I hadn't done one in like a long time. So this one is another stupidly simple recipe episode, and basically it's gonna go like this. So I made I made basically a homemade egg and cheese and sausage croissant sandwich, but uh, the thing about it is that it is actually cheaper to make these things at home. So, for instance, um, I got some store bought pre-made croissant, um, and you can get those for rather cheap compared to the cost of like the sandwich itself. And right away, you're getting a better quality product because it's lighter, it's not mass produced, it's lower in salt, and you're just generally going to be doing something better for yourself. Uh, and it's usually just a nicer product. And so you start by basically putting that in your toaster oven. You don't really want to put it in a pop-up toaster just because of the shape. You really do want to put it in a toaster oven. If you don't have a toaster oven, you can always use a regular oven, uh, but you'll have to actually sort of look up the settings sort of to toast things in an oven, just because. But basically, you put it on warm. Um, if your oven has a warm setting, just to keep things at temperature without letting bacteria grow on them, that's basically the temperature you use. And then you keep those in there for so so much time. And it would basically be the same setting that you would use for garlic toast or anything like that, where you wanted to warm it up, and if it was bread, then it could crisp it, but it would you know not necessarily burn until it got really dried out. Anyway, so you can use your oven, but I recommend a toaster oven. Toaster ovens are just very handy to have because you don't have to heat up an entire oven, um, and you can do a lot with them. I've broiled in them, um, fish, sausages, um, all kinds of things. So you can really do some great stuff. I've also made, real quick, I'll go on to a quick tangent. I've used the toaster oven to make like those ready to heat and eat chimichangas that you get at like the store, where you could probably have one or two of them if you really wanted to. And basically, you just put them in a pie pan, um, or on a small baking sheet if you have one that'll fit the toaster oven. And then you just pop it on there, follow the settings on the wrapper. Uh, of course, you take it out of the wrapper. Um, and the outside gets crisp. It takes like a little bit longer, but it's worth it. Um, the cheese gets gooey and melts properly. It gets heated all the way through, so you don't have the cold spots. And you can let it cool on a plate for like a few minutes, and then it's still worth the wait because by that time it's crisped up. It it'll taste better, and it generally will taste much more like something you would want to eat. Um, so the oven instructions are actually a better way to go, and you'll know it's a toaster oven because it'll have a temperature setting and a timer and that kind of thing. Uh, I actually bought what I thought was a toaster oven, but was basically just a toaster. It didn't have a temperature setting; it just had a timer. But on the plus side, it was allowable within the dorms at my college. So it was a feasible unit because the fire marshal had banned them because there was a risk that it could just stay on and on and on and not turn off. But uh, my toaster oven did automatically turn off. It couldn't just stay on and then, burn the place down. And apparently he also didn't like them because he burned his hand while reaching into one. But mine, when you pulled on the handle of the door, the grill that you put things on came out with it. So it was on a sort of sliding mechanism so that you didn't have to reach in, but it came out to you and you could just grab it. Or you could let the stuff cool um, and whatnot. And I actually was able to crisp up some fried chicken in it once, and another time I was able to make like very thinly sliced, like julienne potato French fries. I want to call them French fries, but they weren't quite so much. It just took forever to do, uh, and it was really it's not a very good toaster oven, but it works. It toasts, so whatever. But that aside, it was uh, it was just a good little toaster unit, basically. But it was a horizontal toaster, so you could actually make like little um, mini pizzas on like English muffins or something. So you didn't have to worry quite as much there. But anyway, so you put the croissants in the toaster, and that's really just to crisp them up a little bit. You don't really want them in there for more than 5 minutes on the toast setting, just because um, they'll they'll burn quickly otherwise because they are flaky. Anyway, so you'll toast them, get them crisp, get them nice. Very simple, right? Um, when it comes to the homemade sausage, because I used homemade sausage, uh, homemade sausage is ridiculously easy to make, and the nice thing there is that you don't have to use the really fatty cuts of meat that you get when you make uh, this stuff with store-bought sausage, or when you get this stuff out. Because part of the problem with all that stuff is that they use the fattiest cuts of meat. They use a lot of fat in that stuff. And I used ground turkey, uh, just the really lean ground turkey that they sell. Um, that's like dark meat, white meat, whatever. You know, it's really easy to put that stuff together. You can get sausage seasoning from lots of places. My recommendation for where you get like seasonings and stuff is always soupbase.com, because they're a little mom and pop store, um, and they sell seasonings and things for like the best price you can get. And you can I had when I first made homemade sausage, I had to put together the recipe based on an Alton Brown recipe, and I basically jotted down stuff that I had and put it in those proportions after I ground up some of the ingredients. And I used brown sugar because I don't think I had maple syrup at the time. So I just added a little brown sugar and mixed it up with some dough hooks, which, if you don't know what a dough hook is, it's kind of a corkscrew looking thing that is an attachment for a hand mixer. You can always mix these things by hand, but it's a lot quicker just with the dough hooks. It takes like, a minute or two at most. And the advantage there is that you can pre-cook all the sausage. You can portion it out if you want to, or you can just make it and then pull out a gob and flatten it into a patty, or roll it into a link like you get in the Brown and Serve packages. Um, and it has no fillers. It's just meat and some spices, and so it's going to be better for you. It's going to be less greasy. You're not going to have a lot of fat coming off of it, so it's going to be an overall better uh, thing to eat. Uh, Besides that, you can also go with a little bit of beef. You can make, If you have ready access to ground bison or ground ostrich, you can use ground bison or ground ostrich, and it'll work just fine. And yeah, you basically just flavor it as you want. Even if you want to go with pork, you can go with ground pork that has like so little fat in it and use that. And then you don't have to worry about the ridiculous amount of fat content that you get otherwise in pork sausages. I don't eat pork just as a rule, and a lot of people are kind of going on that bandwagon. Um, but I'm not going to judge. Anyway, so I use ground turkey. I've also used a mixture of ground turkey or ground beef, or just ground beef. And the nice thing there is that you can use like ground steak. There's really no rule that says you can't. You can use like 93% lean, or 95% lean, or 98% lean. You can get like as lean a cut of meat as you want uh, for your sausage if you want, and it'll taste really good. And then just add your seasoning, and that's all you need. Um, Most sausage seasoning mixes that you already have, uh, like pre-packed, don't contain a lot of salt, don't contain a lot of sugar or anything like that. So you're already getting something better by making it yourself at home. But you can always use pre-made sausage patties and whatnot if you want, or you can use pre-made ground sausage, again, if you want. But this is to give you the best quality stuff. Um, Now then, there was actually a deal on some of the sliced cheese, but not the sliced cheese that you get in the stack, but the sliced cheese that comes kind of staggered and spread out over, uh, in a longer packet. Looks sort of like when you get the deli variety pack for cold cuts. Um, that's kind of what it looked like here, and I was kind of skeptical, but then I saw that it had the same number of ounces in cheese, and it was slightly harder cheese, which harder cheese usually means that it's got a little bit less fat and certainly a lot less water. Because a lot of sliced cheese does have a lot of water in it, and then it's all individually wrapped, and so it can be a bit of a pain. So um, the cheese that's sliced like that is usually a little bit better, and it was actually cheaper to get the same amount in ounces of cheese, getting that. Those packages are only a little bit of a pain because they aren't individually wrapped. So if you have a problem with mold in your fridge, then you're gonna have to do something about that, or otherwise keep the cheese in a separate drawer with like a little um, thing of baking soda or something to keep it as dry as possible in that drawer, so that it helps avoid having mold, because mold basically fosters mold grows where it meets certain conditions. And basically the primary condition of that is that it has to be moist. Um, if you keep it dry to a certain level in your fridge or in your deli drawer or whatever, or in your cheese um, cabinet, your cheese thing in your fridge, then it'll generally be better for it. But uh, mold can grow where it's cold. It especially grows where it's warm. So that's really where you have to kind of go with it. But so you want to get you know the best quality cheese for yourself, obviously, but not spend a fortune on it. And mine was like just a regular generic brand. It wasn't like one of the ones that advertises like Kraft or something. I think it was Crystal Farms or something like that. But point being, you don't have to spend a fortune in order to get really good cheese. I found a deal, and they usually run deals on that kind of stuff anyway. So you can do pretty well for yourself. and we just picked up like a whole bunch of it because they had like so many varieties, and it was like two for $4 or something ridiculous like that. Uh, so we were really making out well on the deal. Got some smoked cheddar, some sharp cheddar, some American, which you wouldn't think American, but it's actually really good American. Like it's not that gooey Velveeta like stuff that just kind of disintegrates in your hand. It actually had a nice flavor and texture and wasn't as salty, which I always get kind of bent out of shape about if cheese is too salty like that. Um, because it's just to preserve it at that point. It's just to give it a longer shelf life. And we also picked up some Munster, which was nice. But anyway, so aside from all that, uh, one of the little things I did was I got a old tuna can back from before they were made to be more stackable. You know, where they have the little uh, where they have the bottom designed to fit neatly into the top of another can. Uh, Back from when the tuna cans had rims on both sides, uh, so that you could cut both of them off and have a neat little ring for cutting out biscuits and doing whatever else. So I used this. You know, you don't have to necessarily use that. You can uh, use like an old soup can or something like that where it doesn't have the bottom designed to fit into the top. Um, anyway, I used it to uh, make basically a mold for while I was cooking the egg, and that's really not that tricky. Uh, you basically start uh, by spraying a little. Well, you already have a hot pan because hopefully you've cooked your sausage at this point because that's going to take probably the longest. Um, but then you put the can lid down, and it doesn't really matter where. Uh, it's preferable if the pan is completely clean uh, of any schmutz from the sausage, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to clean the pan anyway after you're done. Anyway, so you put the can lid in and you put it there and you leave it on the heat for a little bit to let it get up to heat enough that it'll start to cook the egg as well. Because once it's up to heat, then the egg will cook. But before you put your egg in, you have to uh, you have to basically put some margarine in, and so you can just take like a little um, I don't want to say more than a teaspoon of margarine or butter if you prefer butter. You put that in, and then you can also spray the inside of the ring with some, nonstick spray, basically some cooking oil spray, and that is like the the tricky part, really, of all that. Um, then you should have a lid ready, preferably a glass lid because it has a little bit of weight to it. Uh, you crack the egg, put it in the ring, and you put the lid on. And what the lid does is it traps the heat underneath so that you're cooking the egg on both sides. Uh, it's not going to cook it quite as well um, as the one side will. You'll want to have the flame somewhat low, or if you're using an electric uh, stove or hot plate, then you're going to want to have the heat down somewhat low because you're going to want to cook the egg a little bit slower. So, by this time your croissant's done, your sausage is cooked. Those will keep for a little bit. Um, anyway, the egg is the one where you really don't want it to be runny. Uh, hopefully, this is if you have a large enough pan, or if you have two pans, you can do the sausage and the egg both at the same time and just have those going slowly, turning the sausage patty, all that kind of thing. But if you don't worry about it. It's still going to be fine. It's not going to be a problem. Now, there's a little bit of a trick because after about a minute or so, you're going to want to get the egg out of the ring. And once you've got the egg, uh, and basically you're going to want to use an oven mitt to basically lift the ring up, and the egg should stay on in the pan. There shouldn't be any runniness. Um, so you're gonna want to take off the lid and poke it with a fork and or whatnot, and just make sure that it's mostly cooked all the way through, and that there's just a little bit on there. Now, if you like a broken yolk or if you like scrambled eggs, then by all means you can mix up the egg before you pour it in, or you can break the yolk while it's in the ring and before you put the lid on, and that's pretty straightforward. Or you can also break the yolk um, after you've had the lid on for a little bit, put the lid back on, and let it just cook, 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 and it'll cook all the way through. And that's where having it on a low heat is advantageous, because you have to keep it on one side for a little while. So that'll really help you in terms of getting the egg cooked most of the way through. Now, once you take the ring off, you're going to have a little bit of egg stuck to it probably, and you can just scrape that off with your spatula inside the ring and just leave that on top. And then pretty much as soon as you got the ring off, you can give the egg a flip just to get it thoroughly cooked on both sides. And once you've done that, you basically give it like 5 or 10 seconds, maybe 30 seconds tops. Um, but that's basically just cooking all the egg on top that wasn't cooked. Once you got that done, you can start to assemble your sandwich. You can put the sausage whatever level you want, the cheese whatever level you want, the egg whatever level you want between the two halves of croissant, and it just comes together very nicely. You end up with, I would have had the sandwich here to illustrate, but I ate it because it was delicious. And basically, it's so ridiculously simple, and then you don't have to go out to get it, and you can make yourself one of those for a snack, or for dinner, or for lunch, or whatever. And then you don't have to fuss. You don't have to get in the car. You don't have to deal with the lines or the drive-through. And you don't, on top of that, you don't have to deal with the expense. And you're getting a better product. If you were to go and ask for like a turkey croissant sandwich with like as much sausage in it as you wanted and as much egg in it as you wanted, because you could actually do like a 2-egg croissant sandwich here. Um, this way, and get like, and you wouldn't even have to bother with the sausage, and you could just have 1 egg or 2 eggs or whatever. You could scramble it and whatnot, and just put it in the middle, put it together, and eat it to go. Done. Excuse me. So, it's so ridiculously simple that you aren't going to have to fuss. And you don't need really any special tools to make this. Um, you just need something to toast the croissant, but you don't need to toast the croissant because that's already cooked. So if you don't have something to toast the croissant, you don't have to worry about it. Worst comes to worst, you can, and I'm saying this with all seriousness, you can cut the croissant in half, put it in the pan on low for like a couple minutes with a lid on it, and that'll basically bake it. That'll basically toast it up. If all you have is a hot plate, a pan, and a lid, that's all you need to toast a croissant. And then it'll stay crispy because you've crisped it, you've toasted it, you've removed some of the water from the outside. So it'll be crispy, and it'll stay crispy for a good uh, while you make the other stuff. So then you can make the sausage. put that in. Then you can make the egg, and you can put the cheese on that, and you can have that all together. And if you want to go, you know, different, you can add a little bit of hot sauce. You can add some salsa. Um, you can. Ooh, one really interesting idea that I just had. You could, if you were looking for more of a lunchtime thing or kind of a brunchy thing, is in the egg you could, if you wanted to scramble it, or if you just want to use egg whites, you could add some spinach, a little bit of diced onion or shallots, and or you could add that separately on top, and then you could take a slice of mozzarella and put that in the sandwich, or you could take some shredded mozzarella and put that on top of the egg after it's done cooking on both sides, and you could use ground chicken or something, uh, and give it a little bit of spice there, and you could also use a little bit of grated carrot with the spinach and shallots, and you would basically have eggs Florentine with with or without chicken. So it could be a vegetarian or it could be an omnivorous kind of thing. You could also use a chicken cutlet um, instead of ground chicken if you wanted, and put that in the croissant and make basically an eggs Florentine or chicken and eggs Florentine sandwich in a croissant, which would be really good and uh, and really light on the fat and healthy, uh, as well as a really tasty thing to have on the go, but sort of gourmet because of the ingredients you're adding. But basically, you could take like just frozen spinach, wouldn't require anything too terribly fancy, and then just add like a little pinch of that to your eggs or whatever, or cook it separately in the pan. Um, and then, like I said, just add a little bit of mozzarella on top of that, and that's really good and substantial and light and healthy and fairly rich in flavor. So you can think about that. There are lots of different directions to take this. Which is one of the nice things about it. That's one of the nice things about cooking things for yourself. And if you want any more ideas like this, I will always recommend that you head to soupbase.com. Uh, I'm not affiliated with them in any way. Um, they aren't paying me to say that or anything like that. I've just really been impressed by their website, and you can get a lot of great tools, a lot of great ingredients for in the kitchen. So if you don't have some of the things that you think you may need in order to cook stuff you want, then go ahead and head over there and see what they might be able to hook you up with, because the prices are great. They give you free recipes with several orders. Several things that you order come with free recipes included in a neat little booklet. They give free samples of this award-winning rub with a lot of their orders. Um, and they try to save you as much money as they can on shipping. And they also have a physical store that you can go to if you're ever in the Cleveland area, because they're just really cool like that. So I recommend checking them out. They're great. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.